Afghanistan now a killing field for Nigerians, more than 100 now killed there. High security in place for EKITI governorship elections. In international news, 6 boys rescued from Thailand cave. And in sport, FIFA demands situation report from Nigeria on PINNICK sack.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Something sinister is going on in South Africa. The country has become a killing field for Nigerians living there. Not a month goes by without a Nigerian being killed there. The Nigerian Union in South Africa has been crying out for some time. Now, another Nigerian, Uzumba Tochukwu Lawrence, was killed on Sunday by an unknown gunman. Special Assistant to the President of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora, Bike Dabiri Erewa, has expressed worry over these frequent killings of Nigerians in that country. The Nigerian Consulate General in South Africa reports that Lawrence was shot 6 times by the gunman. He died before reaching the hospital. Dabiri Erewa described this killing as unfortunate. She says at least 117 Nigerians have been killed in South Africa in the last 2 years. That's about 5 Nigerians killed every month. Protesters have demonstrated against these killings in South Africa. It has been reported that the South African police has taken into custody 14 of those protesters and branded them drug peddlers. That's amazing. A new political storm appears to be brewing around Nigeria's finance minister. The People's Democratic Party is accusing Kemi Adeosun of forging her National Youth Service Corps certificate. The party has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to sack, arrest and arraign her. Rotimi Akintoye has the story.
The People's Democratic Party believes it has found a legitimate grip against Finance Minister Kemi Adeosun, whom they allege to have forged her NYC certificate. PDP National Publicity Secretary Kola Alogbondiyan said in a statement that this vindicated the party's stand that the Buhari administration is populated by those the party calls fraudsters, common thieves and persons of questionable character. He also said this cast a shadow on the overall integrity of the Buhari administration. The party has said President Buhari calling those who work in his administration sleazes and hurtful judges. The party has not revealed how it's discovered this alleged forgery. Neither has it presented any evidence to corroborate its charges. The finance minister has not responded to the charges. Rotimi Akintoye, ANN News.
EKITI State is all set to go to the polls on Saturday to elect a new governor. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is hard at work to ensure all is set to go. Electoral commissioners are taking their positions and the electorate is assured of a smooth operation on election day. On its part, EKITI chapter of Nigerian Medical Association is calling on security agencies in the state to maintain peace during the upcoming governorship election there. Lucia Deyeme brings us that story.
The Nigerian Medical Association in EKITI State says in order to improve productivity in the health sector in EKITI State, the governor must sustain the peace citizens have been enjoying. The association says peace must be maintained even after the governorship polls are conducted on Saturday. After commending security agencies, it also charged them with the need to maintain peace and order in the state. It says this is necessary for a free, fair and credible election on Saturday. They also assured the citizens that their members are on alert to respond quickly to any emergency that may arise during that exercise. Dr. Tuji Omotayo, new state chairman of the association, told newsmen in Ado-Ekiti over the weekend that Governor Ayodele Fayoshe's successor was upgrade facilities in all primary, secondary and tertiary hospitals to meet the mandate of improved healthcare delivery to citizens. Lucy Adeyemi, ANN News.
As everyone's listening to the call made by the NMA in EKITI State, Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris has approved the deployment of 30,000 police personnel to EKITI State for the election. He also instructed that a robust and elaborate security arrangement be put in place to ensure peaceful, credible, free and fair election there. To that end, the Assistant Inspector General of Police, 4 Commissioners of Police, 8 Deputy Commissioners of Police and 18 Assistant Commissioners of Police have also been deployed to the state. The IG's plans include manning every senatorial district by a Commissioner of Police. On another front, Inspector General of Police has ordered the beefing up of security at public places, including worship centers, schools and markets, areas where concentration of groups of people could attract violence and terrorism. This order is in direct reaction to the killing of 7 policemen by gunmen at an Abuja traffic roundabout early last week. Police spokesman Jim Momoshi says the IG has set up a team of specialized work investigation detectives, police scene of crime experts and technical intelligence units of the force to investigate the killings of the 7 policemen. 5 suspects have so far been arrested. Just like Ashu State has said it won't give any land in the state to federal government for cattle ranching, Southeast governors are towing the same line. The governors met in Enugu over the weekend and agreed not to donate any land in their region for cattle ranching. Ebonyi State Governor David Umahi stressed that while the federal government has not asked for any land for ranchers, the request will be declined if made. The governor said they will meet with heads of federal security agencies over this issue. On the same topic of herdsmen violence, a Nigerian pastor has described the killings in the country as disturbing and that the herdsmen behind them are enemies of Nigeria's unity. Pastor Peter Obaseki made this assertion to newsmen in Benin City over the weekend. He wonders if anyone really knows who were these killers and whether herdsmen are the real killers. He said it is not advisable to tell Christians to take up arms, so he suggests leaving vengeance to God. He decried the killings of innocent people. He calls on the federal government to intervene and stop the killings. He also says Nigerians across the country must join hands with the government to end this violence. In business news, Lagos has taken on another first, not the kind of first it would want though. A foreign airlines operating in Nigeria says Murtala Muhammed International Airport is the most expensive in the world. They blame this on multiple charges they have to pay to government aviation agencies. The international carriers want the government agencies to get together and unify their charges. They say more airlines would want to operate in Nigeria if the charges are low enough. With that, they say more revenues will be generated and more jobs created. Director of Virgin Atlantic Cargo in Nigeria, Philip Wetherill, says with this type of situation where multiple fees are imposed on foreign airlines, investment opportunities would continue to elude Nigerians. He says the facilities on ground, which require massive upgrades, don't justify the exorbitant fees being paid by foreign airlines. A bank in Nigeria says the federal government will likely borrow up to 2 trillion naira to finance its 2018 budget. FSDH Merchant Bank has described the nation's debt service to revenue ratio as very high and unsustainable at 79% in this year's first quarter. The bank also warned that the country cannot afford another level of naira devaluation as that would further worsen the public debt position. Stay with us on News. Will return after these messages.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down. Keep walking to the left. Yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
shining.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Shining our eyes on breaking news, whether in the east or in the west, with Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, with turbulence in the north and agitation in the south. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got it covered. ANN News, connecting Africans in a truly African spirit. Shining our... There is a new all-news network on the scene in Nigeria to give news from a purely news perspective and to promote free information flow across Africa. African News Network, ANN, fresh views, unbiased, bold, with a purely African view. Watch ANN News on MITV, ANN, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back, and now to African stories. More than 10 persons were burnt to death and 7 others missing in ethnic attacks in DR Congo's volatile east. An army spokesman says a Congolese soldier was killed and a civilian injured in separate clashes with Uganda's Allied Democratic Forces rebel group in the eastern region of Benin. Analysts say local militias and rebel groups from neighboring Uganda, Burundi and Rwanda have continued to fight over the region's rich mineral resources. South Sudan's former vice president is to be reinstated as part of a peace deal to end a 5-year-old war that has devastated South Sudan. The United Nations had given the warring parties President Salva Kiir and his rival Riek Machar until the end of June to reach a viable political agreement or face sanctions. Foreign Affairs Minister says it has been agreed in principle that the two leaders will work together for the sake of peace and stability in southern Sudan. South Sudanese government and rebels have agreed to withdraw their forces from urban areas. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Ethiopian President Isaias Afwerki have announced that their two countries will renew diplomatic and trade ties after years of hostility. Relations between the two countries soared after a border dispute and tens of thousands have been killed since the late 1990s. The two leaders had agreed to set up embassies in their respective capitals, while Ethiopia will be allowed to use Eritrean ports on the Red Sea. 6 members of Tunisia's security forces have been killed in a terrorist attack near the border with Algeria. The Interior Ministry says it is the country's deadliest incident in more than 2 years. Ministry spokesperson confirmed that the blast was a terrorist attack and that assailants had opened fire on security forces after a National Guard patrol in the Jendumba border province hit a landmine. No group had claimed the attack, but analysts say it is the first major attack in Tunisia since 2 years ago. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Issoufou has said his country will continue to be a transit for migrants, including those entering from neighboring Libya. Issoufou had to meet in a UN delegation says it is the tradition of his country to welcome people in difficulty. But the main thing is that people do not stay longer in Niger. The president commended the good collaboration with the European Union in the fight against illegal migration, but says the 2.1 billion fund set up by the EU for his country was not enough. An outgoing member of parliament in Zimbabwe has reportedly claimed that the country cannot prosper without the involvement of whites in its affairs. According to an online medium, Joseph Zuma, a member of the parliament for Zimbabwe's ruling ZANU-PF, says Robert Mugabe made a mistake when he told Tony Blair to, quote, "Keep your England and I'll keep my Zimbabwe," end quote. Reports say Mugabe made a statement at the time he was defending the seizures of white-owned farms during a summit in Johannesburg. Stay with us. We'll return with international stories after those messages.
There is a new all-news network on the scene in Nigeria to give news from a purely news perspective and to promote free information flow across Africa. African News Network, ANN, fresh views, unbiased, bold, with a purely African view. Watch ANN News on MITV. ANN, in a truly African spirit.
Divers in Chiang Rai have succeeded in getting out 6 boys from the flooded cave in Thailand on Sunday. Rescue mission has resumed on Monday. The dangerous rescue effort resumed on Monday after a break on Sunday night to replenish oxygen supplies and make other preparations deep inside the cave complex. Authorities say the mission could take 3 or 4 days. The boys and their coach set out to explore the vast farm-long cave complex after soccer practice 2 weeks ago. They got trapped when heavy downpour flooded the tunnels. They were discovered last week by British divers several kilometers inside the complex. Each of the rescued boys had to wear an oxygen mask. Authorities say they are in good health and have been taken to the hospital for evacuation and treatment. 13 foreign divers and 5 members of Thailand's elite Navy SEAL unit are the main team guiding the boys to safety through narrow submerged passageways that claimed the life of a former Thai Navy diver on Friday. A British woman has died after being poisoned by the same nerve agents that struck a former Russian spy in March and triggered a crisis in relations between Western capitals and Moscow. 44-year-old Dawn Stottress died after she was exposed to Novichok in late June in Almesbury in Western England, a few miles from where Serge Skripal and his daughter were attacked with the same poison 4 months ago. Police say Stottress' death is being investigated as a murder. British Prime Minister Theresa May says she's appalled and shocked by the death. The March attack and the Skripals prompted the biggest Western expulsion of Russian diplomats since the Cold War. Allies sided with Britain's view that Moscow was either responsible or had lost control of the nerve agents. Moscow, in response, expelled Western diplomats. Haiti went through a 3rd day of violent protest on Sunday in reaction to the announcement of a double-digit price hikes for gasoline, diesel and kerosene. Prime Minister Jacques-Guy Lafontaine announced the temporary suspension of those price hikes just a day after they were first put in place, but unrest continued. Many airlines have cancelled flights and many travelers are stranded at the airport in Port-au-Prince, the nation's capital. A charred remains of cars littered the capital. The mostly young protesters felled trees and large rocks to block roads, as well as piles of tires set on fire, some of which are still smoldering on Sunday with a thick smoke visible from afar. The decision to raise fuel prices was part of an agreement with the International Monetary Fund, which requires the impoverished country to enact measures to boost government revenue and services and strengthen the country's economy. 10 people were killed and more than 70 injured when a train came off the rails in northwest Turkey on Sunday. Health Ministry officials are said to have blamed heavy rain and a landslide for the accident. Transport Ministry says the train was carrying more than 360 passengers and headed to Istanbul, where 5 carriages went off the tracks. British Prime Minister Theresa May will have to adjust the plans as 2 of her Brexit officials have resigned. Secretary of State for exiting the European Union David Davis and Steve Baker, a Brexit Department Minister, have quit. Davis disagrees with May on some aspects of her European exit plans. This is a blow to Theresa May, who has been struggling to end divisions in her cabinet. 69-year-old Davis was appointed to May's cabinet when she took power in 2016, shortly after Britons had voted in favor of leaving the European Union. Davis says the government's policies were undermining his negotiating positions in Brussels and would not return control over laws to British Parliament. Italy says it doesn't want any migrants at its shores and would like the European Union's sea missions to take rescue migrants elsewhere. This is what Italy's Interior Minister will request at a meeting of European Interior Ministry in Austria on Thursday. Italy's new government, which took office in June, has made immigration a major focus on the European agenda. It claims that ports to humanitarian ships to rescue migrants off the coast of Libya. on overcrowded boats. In 4 years, more than 500,000 migrants have landed on Italian shores, but many usually head north toward other European countries. Germany, Austria, and Italy have said they would hold talks in Austria about how to shut down the Mediterranean route. So we'll also be right back with sports.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network, ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African space.
Welcome back. This is ANN News, and now to sport. Well, England are in the semi-finals of a World Cup for the first time in 28 years. They beat Sweden 2-0 in the last 8. England made Croatia in the last 4 after Luka Modric and his teammate beat Russia 4-3 on penalties. The game ended 2-2 after extra time. England's victory against Colombia was the UK's most-watched TV event since 2010. World football gathered body FIFA is back to square one on the issue of Nigeria's Football Federation. When the case of Amaju PINNICK came up for the first time, FIFA warned Nigeria of consequences if it was replaced. The case went to court, and now the court's order has been carried out, which removed PINNICK and put Chris Griwa in the NFF leadership hot seat. Now FIFA wants a situation report. They want to have an update on the leadership crisis in the NFF. PINNICK is expected back in court on Tuesday to know the fate of his quest to get the court order set aside that returned Giwa to the glass house. The World Cup match between Spain and Russia may have resulted in Fernando stepping down as Spain coach. The 2010 world champions were defeated by host Russia in penalty kicks in the last 16. The Spanish Football Federation says Herrera has decided not to return to his previous role and will undertake new professional challenges. In Russia, Spain led Group B but conceded a late equalizer against Portugal and trailed Morocco 1-0 and 2-1 before managing to get a draw in injury time. After Russia beat them, Herrera blamed himself for the team's failure to advance any further. Well, that's ANN News this evening. Thanks for watching. For details on this and other stories, visit our website annafrica.net and our social media platforms ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.